Welcome into the DFS Den. It's Dave Eddy here once again for Week 17 NFL DFS coverage. Almost the end of the season here. We got one kind of week left. Week 18 tends to be a little bit of a clusterfuck, so can be really good for DFS if you're really tuned in and make the right choices, if you will. But it also can be an absolute shit show because it's really hard to know what teams are going to do sometimes because a lot of teams just have nothing to play for. But we'll talk about that a little bit more next week when we get into that. Let's get into Week 17 stuff here. And, of course, we're going to start with the quarterbacks. So I'm going to try to move things along here a little bit quicker than I have been. Let's talk salary-wise here. We'll go top to bottom. Patrick Mahomes right now is not going to be in my player pool. Just tough matchup against Denver. I do like, his ownership's going to be probably hovering around a little bit over 5%. That's nice, but, it's just hard to trust anybody but Kelsey, and it's not the best matchup in the world. And there's other things that I like, so I don't expect to be playing him. Justin Fields is interesting, $7,900 going up against Detroit. Last time he faced them, let's take a look here. 167 yards through the air with 2 touchdowns and 147 on the ground with another 2 touchdowns. So put up 43 points that day, second highest total of the season. Don't think that's going to quite happen again, but, he's going to probably be focused on the ground because he's got no one to throw the ball to. I mean, Kmet is by far his best target right now. And that's not saying a whole lot. So, if I run Fields, it would very likely be naked. I wouldn't force Kmet in with him necessarily. I'd bump up the projection for Kmet a little bit when I had Fields, just because it is nice to, correlate that tight end spot somewhere else in your lineup, specifically with your quarterback. But I'm not going to force him in there. We'll see how much of him I play. If I end up playing him, then I try not to play 2 quarterbacks from the same game in MME because then your exposure just gets, too tight on that one specific game. I'm more likely going to be, playing Goff over Fields. Speaking of Jared Goff, I guess I'll move down a little bit here. I can talk about him because he's going to be at home against a very poor Bears defense. Let's see here. Where are the Bears against quarterbacks this season? Let's wait for it to load here. Bear with me a second. Let's see. Where am I at here? Oh, my word. Let's see here. Bears defense against quarterbacks. Let's get this sorted here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. So not as bad as you would think necessarily, but Jared Goff, like I said, just absolutely kills it at home. Bears defense not that great, and the main concern here for me, I guess, with Goff would honestly be, that the Bears don't push him. Bears want to run the ball. Technically, Lions want to run the ball. It could be a slow game. Division games do tend to be a little lower scoring than usual. But, I mean, Goff's going to be super popular, probably the most popular quarterback on the slate. Last time against Chicago, he went for 236 and a touchdown, which was only good for basically 15 points. Didn't even 3X there, but, again, that was on the road. So, Justin Herbert's a guy I'm not really interested in either. He just hasn't really put up that massive game, this year, and hasn't thrown a touchdown in 2 straight. Just not really interested against the Rams. Or I don't know if the Rams could push him anyways. Kirk Cousins, I am interested in him here. I think this is a very interesting game, Minnesota and Green Bay. This is definitely one of my favorite games to target in DFS this week. A lot on the line for both teams. It's in Green Bay, so weather could be a factor, but I don't tend to let weather bother me too much. Let's see. They played in week 1. Kirk Cousins went for 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. He 3X'd that game, but salary's $300 more this week. He's been on a tear here lately. Minimum of 28 points in the last 3. He's got at least 2 touchdowns. He's thrown for 200 yards or more, or I'm sorry, 400 yards or more twice. Really good spot here, and a really obvious stack with Jefferson, as it kind of always is. And Jefferson torched Green Bay last time they played, so we'll get more into that here later on. And then on the other side of the field, we got Aaron Rodgers. I think I like the Aaron Rodgers side a little bit more. $400 cheaper, not quite the stacking options, just because, again, it's so obvious with Cousins. But that's another reason why I do like Aaron Rodgers here. I trust him more, in Green Bay than I trust Kirk Cousins. Granted, it's not like a primetime game, but, I also trust that, Aaron Rodgers, comes to play more than I trust Cousins. Oh, I might sneeze. Oh, man. All right. Well, maybe that's a sign I shouldn't be playing Rodgers. But it's not like Rodgers has been on fire here lately. Just a single touchdown in each of the last 3 games. Hasn't gone over 240 yards. And he's had a couple easy defenses to go up against in Chicago and Miami. Granted, they've been on the road, but whatever. I'm liking Rodgers more than I'm liking Cousins as it sits right now. Brock Purdy is the guy that I'm interested in here. It's a game that the 49ers most certainly want to win. Since he's taken over, he is at least 3x every single week. His price is the same as it has been the last 2 weeks, where he is 3x'd. He's got multiple touchdowns in all 4 of the games he started. Doesn't do anything on the ground, but that's fine. And he's been loving throwing the ball to Kittle as well. Kittle's got multiple touchdowns the last 2 games. So that's kind of a nice stacking partner there. Kittle's not the cheapest, but again, correlation with the tight end spot is something that I do look for. At $5,500, it's hard not to consider him whenever he's been putting up, value. He's not going to win you a tournament by any stretch, but, he's salary well spent typically. And then Mike White in Seattle. I mean, when Mike White plays, he gets volume. He's not efficient. He hasn't thrown a touchdown in his last 2 games. But prior to that, he threw 3 and 2. And he's only $5,400. So again, not hard for him to hit value here. As it sits right now, Rodgers, Goff, and Purdy are looking like my quarterbacks for MME this week. But we'll see exactly how it ends up shaking out. And then let's hit on into running backs this week. For me, running backs, I typically like to kind of remain chalky here because you typically can rely on running backs. They're certainly the least volatile of all the positions. And Chris McCaffrey here right at the top. He's coming in at $9K. Very pricey, but I mean, the role that he has is just phenomenal. Kind of put up a dud a little bit last week in their win against Washington. 46 yards on the ground, only 2 catches for 12 yards. Did sneak in the end zone as well, but you need more than 14 points from him. But prior to that, he'd been putting up 28, 30 points a game for the previous 3 games. And that's more what we need because, at 9K, you need at least 27 points to make them, viable. Really, you need, 35, 40 points for it to be, a really good play. So it's hard, but again, it's probably money well spent. He's going to be super chalk, though. That does make me interested in maybe being underweight on him. But, I mean, as it sits right now, he's looking to be, one of my top exposure running backs. Then Austin Eckler is the guy always in play. Don't really need to talk about him too much. So long as he's healthy, he's a guy that, again, I don't know that he's going to win you in MME just because, he hasn't had that absolute ceiling game really, where he puts up, 50 points. But, I mean, he can get you 40, pretty easily. Granted, he hasn't done it in a while. And, this Las Vegas team is going to be interesting after moving on from Carr. So, I don't know if they push him enough for Eckler to have that kind of game. Guy I really do like this week, though, Saquon Barkley, coming in at $8,000. So, pretty much right around where he's been, for most of this part of the year. If anything, a little lower than his peak for sure. But this is the guy who's going to touch the rock. Big game for them against Indianapolis, who is kind of whatever on defense. He's going to get the ball on the ground. He's going to get the ball through the air. It's going to be relatively popular, but that's fine. I don't mind, like I said, eating some chalk at running back. Josh Jacobs come in at $7,400. Again, with Las Vegas, it's very interesting. He's had 3 down weeks in a row. It just keeps going down in his scoring here. And again, without Derek Carr there, who knows exactly what this offense is going to look like. So that does scare me, but I mean, hard to blame anyone for playing Josh Jacobs, especially when he's going to have fairly low ownership, especially for where you can typically get him. With everything going on there, I'm expecting under 5%. So, could be a GPP winning type play there, but you do have to have some balls to go there. James Conner, $7,200. Another guy that I really like here. Gets a ton of volume. It's been, 3Xing or more lately, just because he's kind of the only thing that they got going on right now, especially with Kyler out, not really being able to move the ball through the air a whole lot. This dude's going to touch the rock in the running game. He's going to catch passes. Just a really good play at a decent price. I mean, $7,200 isn't awesome, and it's the highest he's been all season long. But I think that he's a solid play. They got Aaron Rodgers. Again, that's in that Green Bay, Minnesota game. have a lot of interest there. Assuming that the game does, shoot out, does score a lot of points, you're going to want Aaron Jones over Dillon, even though Dillon has, for like the last 3 weeks, has basically been the better play. But I have interest in Aaron Jones this week. I don't know how much I'm going to actually play him, but I'm interested. And same thing with Dalvin Cook. I'm interested. I don't know how much I'm going to play him. He certainly has not been the world beater that you need to have in DFS. Doesn't have that ceiling game that you're looking for really. But he's very interesting in that matchup. Alvin Kamara going up against Philly in Philly. Again, another interesting one here just because Kamara hasn't been good for a while. Ever since week 8 when he put up that 40-burger, really hasn't done anything. He had a decent game last week, just barely hitting value. But, again, not what you're looking for if you're going to be spending $6,900 at running back. Again, though, ownership's going to be, under 10%, so definitely makes it interesting. Ramondre Stevenson, assuming that Damian Harris is out, very nice matchup here, I think, against Miami. If he plays or if Harris doesn't play, this is a guy who gets a ton of work. Again, not just on the ground, but also in the air. So if Harris is out, I have very high interest here in Ramondre Stevenson. And then Travis Etienne, $6,400. We have been attacking that Houston rushing defense for a long time. Etienne hasn't been great lately. He had a stretch of 4 games where he didn't get over 10 points. And even recently here, he's just been hovering around 15. Not what you're looking for. You need at least, 20 points to make this work, 25 or more ideally. And this is certainly a matchup where that can happen. And the last guy I think I want to talk about here is Cam Akers. He's really been good here lately. When I take a look at the last 3 games, he's been putting up value. His price is creeping up. He's up to $6,100 now, so $600 more than he's been all season long. But absolutely killed it last week. 118 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns. We're not expecting him to repeat that again. But if he can get those 20 carries and be involved in the passing game, that's interesting because they don't have a lot of weapons on that offense right now. And so if they can keep the game close, obviously he's reliable on the ground. And if they get behind, he's at least an option through the air. So somebody to, at the bare minimum, probably having your player pool and just kind of keep an eye on and consider him for, some of your lineups. Wide receivers. Wide receivers always interesting. You can't pay up everywhere. So because I like to typically pay up at running back, I typically am looking for more values here in the wide receiver room, but it's hard not to pay up for a guy like Justin Jefferson this week. If I'm playing Cousins, Jefferson is my stacking guy. If I'm playing Rodgers, it's going to be hard not to come back with Jefferson. Hawkinson's really interesting here too as well, but it's got to be one of those 2 guys. And, man, it's hard to go against Jefferson, but $9,500 is quite a price tag. And it's the highest he's been all year, but, my God, if he hasn't earned it, I mean, double-digit targets in the last 5 games, double-digit catches in the last 3. at least 120 yards in the air as well. Even at this, high salary, he's been, almost 4Xing. So, man, it's really hard not to pay up here. And again, if I'm playing, either one of the quarterbacks in that game, he's going to probably be an option there. And I mean, why wouldn't he be, right? But just know that everyone else that plays those quarterbacks are doing the same thing. So you're not really getting unique, but right now he's looking to be under 15% owned. I imagine that goes up. I can't imagine he's not more in the, 20% neighborhood by the time we get to Sunday, but it's certainly a nice play. And then a guy I'm not hearing a lot about right now, and ownership's probably hovering around 10%, is Tyreek Hill. He's coming in at $8,900, so right about where you would expect him. And this is a guy that absolutely can break a slate. Now, again, very similar to Jefferson, but, I mean, this guy can go bonkers. I don't mind that Tua is out. When Bridgewater played earlier in the season, Tyreek basically had 30 points a game with him under center, so I might even like the fact that Tua is out a little bit. I'm hoping that depresses his ownership because I'm very interested in having a lot of Tyreek Hill this week. He's expensive though. And then Devontae Adams, I don't know what to do with him with no car. I mean, he's going to be so low owned that I could see somebody taking shots on him. I don't know that I can pay that price and go that route myself. Minor St. Brown, he's going to be a guy I'm highly interested in. Might be my highest owned player on the slate. A great matchup here against Chicago. I told you where they were, as far as points against the quarterbacks. Against receivers, they're giving up the most points. So absolute smash spot here for St. Brown. If I play Fields, he's an obvious run back. If I play Goff, no doubt on the stacking partner there. Chris Godwin was another guy that interests me. Must-win game here for Tampa Bay. I see them relying on, the passing game, and, Godwin's the guy that you can rely on the most there. Christian Kirk's very interesting. Again, my concern here, though, is that simply Jacksonville has really nothing to play for this week. They could get out to an early big lead against Houston, and that could be a problem. Or he might just, not play a lot because, they want to rest him a little bit. So, those are things that I find interesting. Let's move on here to tight ends. Tight ends, there's not a whole lot to talk about, I don't think, this week. Kelsey's obviously always in play. He's $8,100, though. I consider him a wide receiver. So when I play Kelsey, I open up the tight end spot to the flex as well because I don't mind playing double tight ends in that spot. George Kittle's very interesting at $5,900. Talked about him as a stacking partner with Purdy. TJ Hawkinson, absolutely love him here this week. $5,400, way more than I like to pay for a tight end. But, I mean, the guy's getting targets. He's getting catches. He can have explosive days. Very interested there. Talked about Cole Kmet a little bit. Probably only play him in a field stack. But I do like him in that situation. But, again, not going to force him there. And then Trey McBride's another one that's interesting if you want to pay down. Relatively cheap, $3,300. Great matchup here against Atlanta. I mean, I don't think he's going to break anything for you, but if you want to save money at tight end, which I typically do, he's a guy that's in play. And then my favorite pay down option is Tyler Conklin, $2,900 against Seattle. Absolutely fantastic matchup. Seattle's terrible against tight ends. We got Mike White back, so we can expect some, passing volume. And it doesn't take a whole lot for him to pay off. So definitely interested there. And then we'll finish it out here with defense and special teams. You know how I like to do this. I basically like to save money, and I don't like to play chalk. So if I'm looking at defenses under $3,000 that I expect to have under 5% ownership, we're looking at the Lions at $2,900. I like that against the Bears. Jets at $2,800. I'm interested there as well. Atlanta, $2,700 against Arizona. Vikings are interesting, $2,700 against Green Bay. That's definitely a way to get unique and a game that's going to have a lot of exposure. I like the Texans at $2,500, Rams at $2,400, Panthers at $2,400. Again, Packers against the Vikings. Interesting way that you can attack defense there, similar to the Vikings play. Raiders against 49ers. Saints at $2,200 against the Eagles, and then the Broncos against the Chiefs. That could be a really good one there as well. Not that we expect them to shut the Chiefs down or anything, or that Mahomes is going to turn the ball over a lot. But again, we're looking to get unique. We're looking to save money. That's certainly a way that you can go about that. So I appreciate you tuning in this week. I wish you the best of luck in Week 17. Go ahead and drop on over here. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And always make sure you throw a like on here for me. It really helps me to know that I've got the support and, helps me keep going. So appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.